Hey guys, what's up? It's Alec Torelli. Welcome back to Conscious Poker and the hand of the day, where I break down interesting, famous, exciting hands I played throughout my career and share them with you in short strategy videos. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. I drop awesome content like this every week on this channel. So if you haven't already, check out last week's video where Destin and I battle it off on Live at the Bike, where he gets me in an epic bluff that I tried to make that didn't work. This week, we battle it off in another hand. So this is actually the same session. This hand happens a little bit later in the session. And I wanted to drop these hands back to back so you get some of the game flow and the strategy and the meta game in the session as well.
Alec gonna bet 10,000. He's shoving on Destin here on the river, and Destin is in a tough spot.
This hand kicks off. We're playing 100, 200 blinds. He opens to 500 in the hijack. And I'm on the button with ace queen offsuit. Now, this is typically a hand where you're going to 3-bet. I think a lot of times I'm going to re-raise here. But I decided to mix it up and go for a call. And I want to do that because sometimes post-flop, I want to have some strong aces, some strong queens. I want to keep a lot of the worst hands Destin could have in the pot that are going to fold to a 3-bet. So if he has something like king queen off or queen jack off or queen 10 off, I don't want those hands to fold to a 3-bet. I want those hands to be in the pot. So if we both flop top pair, I could actually win a huge pot. The same is true if he has something like ace jack, ace 10, ace 9, or like a weak ace. I want him to be in the pot post flop because that's how I'm going to win a lot of money. It also protects me too. If someone 3-bets from the blinds, I can now go ahead and call on the button. My hand is under repped. A lot of good things could happen. So occasionally I like to mix in calls with strong hands here where people don't expect it. Because if you think about a fundamental principle in poker, you make money by people thinking you have the opposite of what you have. So when people put you on the hand you have, you don't really make any money because they're going to play perfectly versus the range they put you on or the hand they put you on, right? But when your hand is under-repped, then you can make a lot of money. People don't put you on a hand and you have a hand stronger than what they believe, they're not going to give you credit, right? Or your hand is over-repped and that you can get credit for a strong hand when you're bluffing, you can bluff them off a big pot. So think about that first principle and try and apply that to your game in various situations. It makes you a lot harder to play against. I go ahead and flat, and we go heads up to the flop. Flop comes ace 7-6 with 7-6 of clubs. I have ace queen with the queen of clubs. So great flop for me. Destin goes ahead and bets 700. And here I decided to mix it up again and go for a raise. I think most people here on this flop, like most times people just call these flops in position because this sort of like favors the pre-flop raiser in the sense that they're more likely to have ace king or aces than I am because I didn't 3-bet pre-flop. So those strong nutted hands are more likely in Destin's range than in my range. But at the same time, like, I want to get value from my hand. Like, Destin's a loose action player. If he has any piece of this board, he's going to go with it. If he has an ace, he's not going to fold to a raise. If he has a draw, he might 3-bet me or stick it in. So I'm not afraid to like lose here. If he has me beat, I'm going to lose. I'm going to go broke. That's fine. At the same time, I'm willing to lose the small percentage of the time that I'm beat to maximize value the majority of the time that I'm ahead. And I work with a lot of clients and students in spots like these. And like so often they're catering to their strategy in this like fear-based approach where like they're so worried about the times they're beat, even though that's maybe 10, 15, 20% of the time, where they're neglecting the 75, 80, 90% of the time that they're ahead. And so my whole strategy is like, look, let's play the hand catered to the majority outcome. Let's play the hand catered to the most likely scenario. Most likely scenario in this hand is that I'm ahead, right? You flop ace queen, ace 7-6, most likely you're ahead, right? So I'm trying to play the hand and maximize the times I'm ahead, not worry about the few times that I'm beat. So he bets 700, I make it 2,200, and I go for a small raise here because I'm thinking multiple streets ahead, right? Our stacks are only like 10 to 15,000. If I make it 2,200 here on the flop, bet 4,000 on the turn, 8,000 on the river, I can get stacks in on the turn in the river. I don't need to make it 3,500 here on the flop. I want to make it small for two reasons. One is I can get stacks in on the turn in the river, even using a small size. Number two, I want to keep worse hands in the pot. I don't want to make it 3,500 and have him fold pocket jacks or a 7 or a draw. Like, I don't mind if he calls with those hands. I'm in position. I have a club in my hand and I want him to draw or call with worse aces. I don't want him to fold those hands. I want to keep him in the pot. So I utilize a small sizing here for those reasons. And it also gives him a little bit of rope that if he doesn't believe me, he just has a random bluff and decides to go for it and pull the trigger here. He can make a 3-bet on the flop because, you know, he has enough chips behind to do it. So I make it 2,200. He calls. The turn comes an offsuit king, which is a great card for me. If he had ace king, it's now a lot less likely because the king on the board makes there fewer possibilities of ace king that remain in his hand. Also, it's an offsuit king. It really never makes his hand better than mine. If he had me beat before with ace king, Merry Christmas, he has me beat. But it's less likely he has ace king now. And certainly this king didn't make him some sort of two pair. Like, and probably doesn't have king 7 or king 6. So this is a really complete blank card. It's a great card for me. He checks. At this point, I still think my hand is good. I want to charge worse aces, and I want to charge draws. I bet 3,600, which is pretty small given the size of the pot, maybe, half pot. But at the same time, he only has another 9K behind the 3,600. So I don't need to bet that big here to build a pot to jam the river. So you want to be thinking multiple streets ahead about how the pot size changes relative to the bet size and what you're trying to accomplish. I bet 3,600. He calls. The river comes in offsuit 4, a complete blank here. And really, I'm like, at this point, like, I mean, he was either slow playing and had me beat, which based on his body language and the mannerisms, the way he was calling, I don't really think is that likely. I think if he had me beat on the turn, he probably would have just stuck it in. He's just going to jam, like if he has ace king or two pair or set. So I think I'm always good here. The only exception would be if he had ace 4. There's, if he has ace 4, great, I lose. But I beat all the other aces. I beat like ace jack. We tie with ace queen. I beat ace 10. I beat ace 9. I beat ace 8. I beat ace 3. I beat ace deuce. I beat ace 5. So I beat all these other aces. So again, sure, there's some part of the time that you're beat here, but you have to cater your strategy to the majority, most likely outcome. And I feel like, these are the spots where more aggressive players that are pushing thin edges are going to go for it. It makes them harder to play against. They're really attacking these spots, and they're really trying to maximize their value with their strong hands. He checks, and I go ahead and fire, full pot or whatever. I put them all in here for 8,200. I bet 10,000, but he only has 8,200 here in this spot. And it's a tough spot for Destin. I mean, he has ace 10. Most people would assume that I either have two pair, a set, or a bluff. They're not going to put me on one pair. And I think that's why it's kind of a cool play here, right? Because most people put you on a super polarized range. They put you on like super nutted hands, like ace 7, ace 6, 7s, or 6s. That's basically the 4 hands they put you on, given the line I took. I raised the flop, I bet the turn, I jammed the river. They're basically putting me on a strong nutted hand on the flop. Otherwise, they're putting me on a bluff. And so if I'm ever bluffing with something like 8-9 or clubs, granted he blocks clubs, which isn't that good for him because you want to unblock the hands your opponent could be bluffing with. You actually don't want to have clubs in your hand when you're calling this river. But if he puts me on only those nutted hands or bluffs, then it becomes a lot harder for him to fold a hand like this because there's just more bluffs in my range. That said, that's why I like to mix in the ace queen. I think it makes it really tricky, really hard to play against me in certain spots like this. And he ends up calling. It works out, and I win a big pot. So I get a little bit of revenge from the last week. So 1-1, Destin and I are even, if you watched last week's video as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your thoughts in a comment below. For more awesome content, head over to consciouspoker.com. We have an academy running that's once a year we run. It's an 8-week program to help you turn poker into a profitable business. Learn more at consciouspoker.com. Click on Alec's Academy. And there's also awesome content there as well to help take your game to the next level. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Alec Torelli. See you in the next one.